It feels like the air is changing. Deep breath as I witness me rising from the manger. Betwixt the flies, like a watered stranger, heel step falling back in the culture, where my mind's eye is sanctified, glorified in the traumas of the past I tried to hide. Misty-eyed, for my spirit is on the heightened side, welted while I ride, bewildered by the tides inside. Pride witnessing the ties that predicts demise, which means one day sadness reigns from the eyes. In the many drains from those that knew not that they knew my name. All sides. Hello everyone, welcome back to Poetry Journal Podcast. I am your host, Alex Murdoch. And what I just read there was a piece of the quote, a part of it, not the whole thing. Hope everyone's doing well. Bit of another grey day in London, but I'm not complaining. We're used to this, so we just keep it moving. Hopefully you had a little gist of what I just read, and hopefully some of it cling to you, but if not, I'm just gonna go through the whole thing right now, and we can go into it a little bit. So here we go. It feels like the air is changing. Deep breath as I witness me rising from the manger. Betwixt the flies like a watered stranger, heel step falling back in the culture, where my mind's eye is sanctified, glorified in the traumas of the past I tried to hide. Misty-eyed, for my spirit is on the heightened side, wilting while I ride, bewildered by the tides inside. Pride witnessing the ties that predicts my demise, which means one day sadness reign from my eyes. In the many drains from those that knew not that they know my name, all sides. Where do we go for pride when nothing resides, when nothing is at present to remind? The many people that had it in abundance, now we sit with variables of such only in romance, ceremonious with the debates, of late to find the perfect rebate that depicts the world in a balance with date to date, to create in the purity of the vision, eclipsed in the moment, if only it was so without the cries of the far out foreign prying eyes. They sit and sigh, waiting for the left foot to slide, for the right resides in the pocket of the light, righteous with the fright, hoping one day we can all live a tranquil life. And that was the full quote. Hopefully it resonates with you and you get an idea of, where I was at when I wrote this. Before I go into, perhaps the background inspirations behind what made me, put this on paper. I love questions. So, a few spanners in the work. So, things for you to think about. I would say, how much can you speak on your journey? How aware of you? How aware are you of the growth that has and is still taking place? And with that being said, do you find the moments rewarding if in fact you are a person that's cognizant of such factors, in terms of in your own life, in a sense? Do you find them rewarding? Do they compel you to go on, to live a life that continues with a culture, so to speak, where you keep repeating that whole experience of the feeling of being rewarded, or is that feeling of being that rewarded feeling? Meaning, are you doing your best to have the greatest outcome for yourself as a person? Can you personally self-reflect and say, where I am as a person, I am aware of where I've been, relatively speaking, in terms of the time period, or like a reasonable time period, perhaps let's say half a decade or a full decade, and you've seen your growth. Can you say you're pleased, or you're reward? It's rewarding to look back and be like, self-reflect and be like, yeah, that was me then, and look how far I've come. Is there a sense of reward? Because if that's not the case, then it's almost like perhaps you're not quite there in terms of not content with where you are as opposed to where you were, And maybe that's something you should think about, something that you should pay attention to. For me personally, going back to this piece I just read, when I read this quote, it speaks to me of the journey that I have embarked on for a long time now. And when I say a long time, I would say around a decade or so, to not only get to know myself, but to know my demons, my better half. Not only that, I felt compelled to know what makes those side of myself tick. For example, to know how to channel the various sides that's within myself that I've discovered, to utilize those sides, or in terms of to utilize myself in terms of capabilities, even if we're speaking strictly just skills. I say all this to say that these are tools, in a way, I have used to sharpen myself as a person. Going back to the sculpture where, you're kind of chipping away. That's an analogy that I think kind of depicts what I'm trying to express at this point right now. So to be better, to be ever, what does that mean? To rise to the occasion, to overcome, to peak in your favor. what I mean to peak in your favor, I'm speaking on not just peak when it's just a normal Monday or a normal Sunday. I'm saying peak when, you know what, you have a lot riding on things. You have a lot riding on this special Sunday because something important is about to take place, and you know you've got to be on point. You know that on this day it's important that you've dotted your I's and crossed your T's. And it's important that, to me, that's a form of peaking in terms of like just knowing that, you know what, you've done everything. And this is all preparation this weekend. And so you've prepared down to the T where, you know what, everything just fits and it just makes sense. And I think there's a form of confidence that comes from that. Here's another question. How does one overcome their peak? Better question. How does one get to know their peak? I think you have to live in the moments. Speaking of life experience and life journey. And so you have to live in the moments, the volumes of life's journey, in a sense. Even in the turmoil tethered by awareness, it's very important that you're aware of what's going on. I think there you will find the answers you're looking for. There you will discover the moments that will show you true reflections, even if it's mere seconds. Those moments will show you a true reflection of who you are, who you truly are. Introspectively speaking. Now, some people may find this in various ways. I guess I'm trying to put it in layman terms right now. And so, some people will be put in such a situation to facilitate these type of things that I'm speaking on in various ways. We all have paths in life, and we choose, you know, by choice or by chance. You could choose a path that works for you, or you know is your path. As for myself, I've discovered that art is my path, that have revealed the many sides of myself. And I mean, if I was to look on a broader scale, I would say, I think I've mentioned before that, you know, I've been an athlete for I would say close to, if not over, well, I'm talking about just doing athletics full time now. Close to a decade, but I would say just in terms of just actually doing it, I would say over a decade. But I think for me personally, that's where my journey of self-discovery started. And you know, if you know anything about not just sports, but athletics is very individual, and so the things that you have to go through to develop, to grow, etc. is I guess what I'm trying to get at, you can't hide from yourself. And so and I, in my opinion, from what my experience, the greatest athletes are those, obviously, not speaking on the greater tangibles like talent and all sort of stuff, but I feel like the greater athletes that end up being the champions and, just absolutely above and beyond across the board are those that truly know themselves. So that's where it started. And so, but in terms of the art, I was writing before. Actually, I was writing poetry before I started athletics. So I guess it goes even further back. But I guess at the time, I wasn't in a space where, I kind of truly cherished my art like I am now. So I think, truly the self-discovery that I'm speaking about started from athletics. And so maybe that's where it kind of facilitated my understanding of myself, to know that, art is something that I'm truly passionate about in terms of poetry and just writing in general. So, going back to what I was saying, as for myself, saying that art is my path that revealed the many sides of me. And I would kind of preface this by saying, yes, I got to know myself through athletics, but when it comes to the artistic part of it, I think it's so much more deep. It runs so much further. Because for some reason, sometimes when you write, it's almost like you tap into your subconscious in a sense. And sometimes certain things comes out that you don't actually realize at the time that you're acknowledging certain things until sometimes I would write something and I would leave it for a couple of days and go back to it, and then it would actually hit me, so it varies how it impacts you sometimes, but on occasions it can be like that. So when I write, the number one rule, so going back to the many sides of me, what I mean is, when I write, the number one rule is always to come from a genuine, candid, frank place. After all, you can't lie to yourself, and I wouldn't even try. Thus, you have to be truthful. Speak on your truth. Stand on your truth. Those are important ingredients for growth and knowing oneself. Through it all, I can honestly say I've come to a place where I can witness the change in building blocks being laid, introspectively speaking. It's enough to make me smile. make me feel good. I mean, that's what we're all trying to accomplish at the end of the day. Where you can reward yourself because you know what you've done and the effort you put into to be better, or like I said, be ever, or continuously being ever and better. Simply knowing I'm on the right path, or at least I'm doing something right, is the biggest thing. I'm doing for self what nobody else can do for me. There's no bigger reward for me than if it's only that in itself, and self-love is very, if nothing else, I'd say everybody needs to practice self-love, so very important. Well, thanks everyone for tapping in and hearing what I have to say. As you know, Poetry Journal, Growing Pains out now. Don't forget about Poetry Journal, Dream, Imagine, Express. And I would say, if I was to differentiate between the two, what's different from the two? As you know, Poetry Journal, Dream, Imagine, Express was the first. Poetry Journal, Growing Pains is the following, second one. And I would say it kind of fits in this whole thing I'm speaking about, where when I think about Dream, Imagine, Express, the first poetry book, it just put me in a space where it's just almost like it was so much raw emotions, a book with some amount of raw emotions, and just speaking candidly on things that just came from instincts. And when I look at it now, a lot of the stuff I feel like is so profound, which is how I started this podcast in the first place, just kind of just reading out the whole book on here. So when you get a chance, just go on and have a listen. You don't have to buy the book, you can listen on here, on this podcast platform. But the words, as we know, the book tells a more in-depth situation. So, of course, the book's there. Whereas, if we're speaking on Poetry Journal, Growing Pains now, I just feel like where I came from with that one is more like I see so much more refined depiction of my work, and it's almost like it was like at the time I would say that was me peaking in terms of like where I was in my life, and just painting a picture through my art with that piece. And it's almost like I realize, this is me, this is me, the way I wrote this book, the way I wrote this poetry, all this poetry, and just depicting so many emotions, of course, but it just came from it was so, I think what I'm trying to get at is just the growth I see from the first book to the next. And I think when I do finally publish my third poetry journal book, I think there's going to be so much people. I think people will be surprised how much growth has happened since then. So like I said, these books are out. I'm not hard to find. Instagram, dreamimagine.express is my WordPress, and there is Instagram Poetry Journal at Poetry Journal, or you can go www.instagram.com/poetry, that's PO3TRYJOURNAL. So be sure to reach out. I'm open to always speaking about art or experience, or just discussion from somebody and their good. So would love to hear from people and what their thoughts are of, even things that we speak about on this platform. So, I'm aware of the growth and where the locations that people have been paying attention in terms of the platform. So, and like I said, I always shout out to the listeners for paying attention to what I have to say. So again, thanks everyone for listening, and until next time, take care.